Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with the profile for my Aromage Grind deck, a heaven or hell variant of Aromages that trades consistency for potentially explosive plays and toolbox elements. When it works, oh boy does it work, and when it doesn't, there's always game 2. Now, if you want to see this thing in action, you should check out the main What a Deck video linked down in the description. There I'll be playing 10 duels against random opponents on YGOPro, just showing off how this thing works. Otherwise here, I'm going to go card by card and explain what everything should do in theory. Starting off with our monster lineup, we have one each of Big Papa Berg, Mama Marge, Rosemary Senpai, and Kanaga. After that, we're on 3 Fireflower, 3 of the Amazing Flying Nun and her preposterous pupper pal, 3 Jasmine-chan, 3 Laurel-kun, 3 Evil Thorn, and 3 Itty-Bitty Babies. For spells, we're on 1 for 1 for 1, an extra copy of the field spell, and 3 each of Pot of Greed, sometimes, Hand Trap Insurance, free life points, and more free life points now with bonus attack add-on. Our only traps are 3 copies of Charlie's Angels and 1 Starsky and Hutch. Our extra deck consists of 2 Jasmine, now with Fireflower powers, and 1 each of John Cena, Randy Savage, A Bomb, Mr. Winmore, Big Mama Marge, Rosemary Sensei, Maximum Avra, Boral, Decode Corn and Nix, Barra Borg, and a Karibo Fix. The side deck I'll go over in a little bit. So Aromas, if you don't know, are an archetype of plant monsters all about gaining life points. Every single one of their monsters has 2 effects, one that activates when you gain life points, and another continuous effect that turns on when your life points are higher than your opponent's. Together, all these effects form a toolbox of sorts, allowing you to deal with many different types of problems. Of course, your main problem, most of the time, is not having enough cards, either in your hand or on your field, and Aladdin's waifu over here takes care of both of those. When you gain life points, she draws you a card, and if your life points are higher than your opponent's, you can normal summon an additional plant each turn. That's why we play her at 3, alongside 3 Lone Fire, who contribute itself to summon her, or any plant monster from the deck. Laurel, in contrast to Jasmine, only really helps you with one of your advantage problems, but it still helps. If your life points are higher than your opponent's, you can special summon it from your hand. Likewise, Angelica, if she's in the graveyard and your life points are the biggest, you can summon her from the grave, but banish her when she leaves the field. Using these 4 monsters alongside Evil Thorns, who I'll explain later, you want to try and get 3 plant monsters on board, all so that you can make this Aroma Seraphy Jasmine. She only takes 2 plant monsters to make, but she can tribute a monster she points to summon any plant from the deck, allowing you to turn any of your dainty little dandelions into a big honkin' sunflower. She also searches a plant when you gain life points and offers battle protection when your life points are higher, making her the optimal first turn starter. As for the rest of your tools, let's go over them really quickly. If you gain life points, Berg gains 1,000 attack and defense until the end of your opponent's turn. Marge banishes cards in your opponent's graveyard up to the number of Aromages you control. Rose changes one monster's battle position. Kanaga returns a spell trap to the hand. Laurel turns any plant into a tuner. Big Marge destroys 1 card, and Big Rose negates a card until the end of the turn. In addition, if your life points are higher than your opponent, Berg makes all your plants do piercing damage. Marge says you take no battle damage at all. Rose has a stupid, irrelevant steamroller effect. Kanaga lowers the attack and defense of all your opponent's monsters by 500. Big Marge protects all plants from being targeted, A. And Big Rose gives all plants a 500 attack and defense boost. Now obviously some of these are more useful than others. In fact, Rosemary wouldn't be played at all if not for her relatively high attack and convenient level. But if you can get 3 or 4 of them on the field, you can start to go plus like crazy, because we have several tools to gain life points every single turn. The best way is with this blessed card. It's a continuous trap that says once per turn you can either send a plant from your hand or field to the grave and gain 500 life points, return a plant in the grave back to the deck to gain 500 life points, or pay 1,000 life points to summon an Aroma monster from the graveyard. These first two effects allow you to trigger all your Aromages during your opponent's turn, while recycling your monsters, which is pretty neat. And while the last effect costs life points, it can be used to trigger this card, Aroma Gardening, which says, once per turn, if you summon an Aroma monster, gain 1,000 life points. Not only is this great first turn for getting your plays started, but if you have this with Blessed Winds, that means you can pay 1,000, summon a monster, gain 1,000 back, and immediately trigger everything, allowing you to search, pop, draw, banish, negate, etc. Another way to gain life points during your opponent's turn is Angelica. She doesn't have an effect when you gain life points, opting instead for a hand trap quick effect that lets you discard her during either player's turn to target an Aroma in the graveyard and gain life points equal to its attack. Like Gardening, this is good first turn to set up your plays since you can discard, gain, trigger effect, then summon back from the grave. And on subsequent turns, it becomes a backup if your trap gets destroyed, or if you just want to gain like 2,000 life points all at once. Speaking of hand traps, you can discard Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood during either player's turn, and every time your opponent special summons after that, you gain life points equal to the attack of the monsters they summon. Obviously, this can trigger your effects during your opponent's turn, but it can also be great in general for the grind game. Against combo decks, you can sometimes get more than 10,000 life points off this thing, putting you so far ahead of your opponent that you can never fall below them. A first turn Dogwood also guarantees you can use Ancient Leaf, and it has great synergy with our remaining trap, Dried Winds. This is also continuous, and it has two effects. First, once per turn, if you gain life points, destroy a face-up monster. More disruption. Second, if you have 3,000 more life points than your opponent, you can pay points until you're both equal, and then destroy monsters your opponent controls whose combined attack is less than or equal to the amount you paid. In previous versions of this deck, that second effect almost never got used, but with Ghost Sister, it becomes an almost guaranteed board wipe, since, at the very least, you'll gain life points equal to the attack of all your opponent's monsters. Our final two life point gain cards are Garden and Laurel. The former is a neat field spell. Once per turn, if you control an Aroma, you can gain 500 life points. And then, every monster you control gains 500 attack and defense until the end of the opponent's turn. This applies to every monster you control, not just the ones that were on the field when you activated this, and the boost remains even if this card leaves the field. It's not a quick effect, unfortunately, but still a staple for its ease of use and the attack boost, which can put Bergamo up to 3,900 attack and allow for the occasional OTK. As for Mr. Grumpy Pants over here, he has a third effect I didn't mention before, which is, if he's sent to the graveyard, gain 500 life points. Not the most significant or easily activated gain, but it's great in combination with our Link. She can tribute him to summon any Aroma, and then his effect will proc in the graveyard, allowing both this and the thing you summoned to activate their effects. This is actually key to the optimal first turn board, which is a 2-card combo that I'll explain now. All you need is Evil Thorn, or a card that can get to it, and Laurel, or a card that can get to him. Start by summoning Evil Thorn and activating its effect, which is to tribute itself, inflict 300 damage to the opponent, and then summon 2 copies of itself from the deck. Use these 2 plants to make Aromaseraphie Jasmine. Then, since your life points are now higher than your opponent because of that whopping 300 burn, you can special summon Laurel from your hand to a zone Jasmine points to. Tribute him with her effect to summon Marjoram. Laurel will activate in the grave, giving you 500 life points, which will trigger your Link, letting you search Angelica. Discard Angelica, targeting Laurel to get 800 more life points, and then summon her back from the grave. Marge plus this level 1 tuner makes Big Marge, who, in addition to everything I mentioned earlier, can add either of your continuous traps from your deck to your hand when she's summoned. If you add Blessed Winds with this, you'll have the ability to gain life points during your opponent's turn, meaning you have a Disruptive Destruction with Big Marge, and an additional search with Jasmine. To top it all off, both of your monsters will be immune to targeting and battle because your life points are higher. And that's just with 2 cards. If you open with Blessed Winds, you can search Dry Winds to get an additional monster pop. If you open with Jasmine and either of your garden cards, you can end with her on the board as well for some bonus draws. And of course, this basic combo will put your life points over 9,000! Which means you can activate Ancient Leaf to draw into even more cards. And that's really the deck's win condition, just overwhelming advantage. Once you get going, the aromas can really snowball, and if you get to the point where you're popping 2 cards and drawing 2 cards every single turn, there's no way your opponent's going to be able to keep up, especially when you start using that advantage to make big extra deck monsters. There's a bunch in here, most of which are just generic Synchro and Link toolbox stuff. You can replace them with pretty much anything you want, whatever you think is powerful. The only big standout cards are Beetleborg Blocker, which can be used to recover your field spell before being linked up into Avramax, and Ancient Sacred Wyvern, a Synchro that gains attack equal to the difference between you and your opponent's life points. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes your opponent will fail the Ghost Sister challenge, leaving you with 18,000 life points and them with no negation on board, which, best case scenario, turns this into a 12,000 attack point beater that can steal games. All that really leaves in the main deck is 1-for-1, it can search Laurel or Angelica for your combos, and Called by the Grave, because our combos involve a lot of searching, drawing, and summoning from the deck, and Ash Blossom can ruin your day. That being said, if your opponent isn't on any hand traps, you can side this out for any of the cards in the side deck. My actual side deck choices are extra copies of Marge and Kanaga for decks that are especially hurt by their effects, Twin Twisters for spell trap heavy decks since your plants like to be in the grave, extra copies of Dried Winds to replace your one-of mages if they're useless, and Evil Swarm Mandragola for when you know you're going second. It's a plant that can be special summoned if your opponent has more monsters than you. Cactus Bowser, meanwhile, is a great card for the main deck that I didn't play because it's too mean for the show. It's an 1800 attack, level 4 plant that stops both players from special summoning while it and another plant monster are on the field. You can't special summon this, but remember that Little Jasmine gives you 2 normal summons, and Big Jasmine can protect it from battle, so you can potentially make a pretty solid anti-meta build of this deck based around summoning this thing out and protecting it. I definitely think there's potential here, but making my opponent surrender first turn because of floodgates is really boring to watch. So I just kept it in here. One of you can experiment with it and let me know how it works. Our final 2 cards are Garnets that increase the ceiling of this deck further, while making it slightly brickier. Rose Fairy is a plant that says if you search it, you can immediately special summon it. Combos really well with your links that you can search, summon, then tribute for any plant in the deck. Mardell, meanwhile, is a level 9 plant with 2400 attack that searches a plant when it's summoned. You can summon this off of Lonefire or the Jasmine Link fairly easily, giving you another body on board while gaining extra advantage in the process. Both of these work great, but I had too many one-ofs clogging my hands already, and I preferred the Aromage toolbox to these potential extenders, because at least the Aromages can be normal summoned and have some benefits on the field. Again though, if you want to experiment with Aromages, try to make a more meta-competitive lockdown version, these are a good place to start because they add consistency, even if they make your hands bricky sometimes. Regardless, there's the deck. I hope you liked it. Like the video if you did like it, comment if there's any changes you would make, and subscribe if you want more strange deck profiles. I do one of these every other week. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, good luck, and have fun.